We are live.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to yet another episode of Tanya Talkies. This is super, super exciting for me because today I'm joined by a guest and also an LSR alumna. I am so, so excited to introduce to you Avnika Gupta. I feel like her introduction also sort of precedes her, and I will actually ask her how she would like to be addressed because she's a journalist, she's a writer, she's a poet, she's a performer, she's an artist. So I thought about this so much, and I will ask the chat also very quickly that when it comes to somebody that multifaceted and that multi-talented, how do you actually introduce them, right? So, given on that very strong note, Avnika, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Can I quickly ask you to introduce yourself to the audience and let's get started with the stream for the night.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That is a lot of energy that you've just, thrown at everyone and at me. And I think honestly, this is just to make it as simple and as clear. I feel that essentially in all of the things that you said, right? I think what I'm trying to do is just tell stories in any medium, right? So I really don't identify with any of these words. I just identify with the act because I feel what I'm trying to do is tell a story, whether it's through poetry, whether it is through, a micro fiction format, whether it's free verse, or whether it's a full length, I don't know, like a literary manuscript or whatever it might be. So I think essentially I would just like to be a storyteller.
Lovely. Because you have a very impressive lineup of initiatives and campaigns and also movements that you have been associated with. So it's like I'm at a loss of words to compliment you. Seriously. But at the same time, I want to quickly deep dive into a journey, maybe, and I want to just explore, understand that Avnika Gupta who and how. And the person who's sitting right in front of me, even for the people who are watching live right now, will watch later on, on Kitaabi Cabins.
Right.
Do make sure that you like the stream. Do make sure that you like Avnika's Instagram channel, which is filled with a gazillion words. That's how we connected the first time. Because I was really, really the word is enigmatic. It's written so well. And like Avnika said, free verse is something she really specializes in, perhaps. And as a storyteller, it comes so naturally to her. So maybe let's get to know your story. Like the 101s of writing, how did you get into it?
So I think Tanya, honestly, I never really took writing seriously while growing up. I didn't even know. I just thought it was something that you had to do, for your papers or in English comprehension essays. Somehow I was attracted to it. I enjoyed it. I remember I used to I told my mom, I want to take English tuitions. And people would laugh at me, because nobody would take English tuitions. People would just take maths or science. But the reason somewhere I think was that, I used to feel very attracted, to small, small things in grammar. I would, keep reading the rules of tenses. And it was sort of a little weird because I didn't know why, So I think for me, it was never like I wanted to be a writer or I didn't meet any writers when I was growing up. I didn't really know this was a profession. I just always sought a very conventional path for myself. But I think one common thing which connects us both is LSR. And the reason I am so indebted to that space is because, it's when we, especially for me, when I got out of school, I was not exactly a very confident person. I was not someone who could, just be like, oh, I'm good. If somebody would have asked me, what are you good at? I wouldn't have known, So I think LSR really, gave me that space. And the good thing, I think, on my part was that I kept on taking every single opportunity to explore myself. So I just really went right at it, from being in all kinds of college societies and, doing street theater, which again is an art form that is, just really connects you with yourself and demands so much out of you. especially just like releases all your shyness and all your, this tendency to sort of try to be away from people, right? You can't be withdrawn. So I think how I got into it, like one, clear moment, I remember there was this magazine, Berlin Art Parasite, that had, come up on Facebook. And काफी times I was, following their content. They used to write in a very personal way. Like kuch bhi, like, even if it was a small snippet or story, it was very personal with a beautiful visual. And I was like, okay, let me just write something. And I just sent it to them. Like somewhere I saw an email and I was just like 10 ways to be happy, you know? Literally, that's all. And I wrote like these 10 points because I was like,
Yeah.
now the heading is already saying 10 ways. I need to write 10 points, and I just sent it. And then I remember, I think after 2-3 days, I saw they published it. So I got very excited.
Wow.
And, I didn't know it was a big thing, even though I was excited. Then someone in, college, in LSR, in fact, told me, I've been writing to them for, these 1 or 2 years, they never respond.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, maybe I can write, like, because if, like it is really like that.
Yeah.
So then, I wrote like another 5 pieces, all of which they again published. And then the manager of their team reached out with a contract saying that we want you in our global team as someone who can represent India, like, like a columnist from India. So I was like, yeah, sure. So yeah, really, that's how it started. Then I wrote a lot of stories.
The epiphany moment, the aha moment was.
Yeah. But, like in retrospect, I feel like, there was no way to get into the magazine, right? It was not like they wanted anyone on their team or they were like, we're inviting people to join us. They didn't even say that we are inviting submissions, by the way. So, like, I think an important thing I just want to tell people is that, it's very important to just act on instinct. Because even if I'd submitted, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece, I'm sure nothing would have happened. But after that, they were like, she's so crazy. She submitted 6 pieces back to back. And now we can see she's writing like the stuff that we write. Okay, we need to, you know what I mean, right? So I think you need to create your own this thing, just like act on instinct.
Nice. Because can I ask you one like quick question as follow-up to that? Hey, what was your pull factor? What pulled you into literature in the first place? Or what is usually the pull factor for a lot of people? Career prospect wise, do throw in like pointers about how has the journey been so far? And what do you see for yourself? Like, I'm not going to ask you an interview question, ki 5 saal baad kya, but
5 years from now.
Yeah, where does the story, what does the story build up look like for Avnika?
Nice. I like how you phrased it. Like you've asked the same question, but in a different way. Very smart.
Yeah.
So yeah. So honestly, Tanya, for me, like I said before, this is me being as honest as I can. I never even realized that I can write. Forget thinking of it as a career or forget thinking about it as any kind of means to achieve something. I never did. It was just like I said, I was acting on instinct. So after I wrote for Berlin Art Parasites, they started putting out a lot of my content because at that time also I would make sure to, produce like faster stories or come up with, innovative concepts. Like, for example, I went to this Karni Mata temple, which is in Deshnok, which is near the place called Bikaner in Rajasthan. And it has a very interesting story about the rats there and how it's connected to this whole clan. So I, wrote a story about that because a global audience wouldn't really, know about it. Even though later, of course, it has been featured on, I think Discovery or National Geographic, I think one of the two as one of the historical sites. But I just, felt that, okay, let me write about it because I'd gone there and experienced the energy, So I think a lot of these things I came up with and people started to connect with it. I used to get a lot of messages from people being extremely vulnerable. in the chat, like they would say something very personal, like I remember one of the one lady, she's like, I lost my husband in so and so year, and while I was reading your piece, which is about how it is to deal with the end of a relationship, she felt that all of those emotions had somewhere come back, and at the same time, she felt that it had also helped her process many of them. So when that happened, honestly, when these people told me these sort of things which were so personal, and they were sitting so far away from me in another country which I'd never been to, that's when I realized that, okay, this is something that has a power, that can make an impact. So I think for me, really, it was literally that. And then I kept on doing it. So from there, I went to
Yeah,
thought
and then it became like
catalog.
a journey onwards and
Exactly.
upwards.
Exactly. Because, then I was just writing more, cold emailing people. And then also, so it was basically a whole thing then. Yeah.
I think any field, it works for any field. Cold mailing, sort of getting into the brass tacks is just really pestering someone who's been seasoned, who's been in the space for a long time. Did you have a lot of support when you moved, you shifted bases? Did you know a lot of people in creative industries? And how difficult is it for an outsider to map their way in a creative space like this?
So I think, see, honestly, no one in my family is into academia or into even, any of the into publishing or writing, none of that, which is why I mentioned, right? Like I did not really look up to the profession, or I didn't really know what to do, right? So like for me, it was really more like I think somewhere I used to put my heart into what I was writing. Because of that, it was more like, okay, one of my manager, she moved to Thought Catalog and she said, okay, now I want you here too. And Thought Catalog was becoming, sort of really big at that time.
And this was LSR, like just to quickly
Yeah. In fact,
LSR time.
If I have to tell you the timeline, it was 2015 itself when I joined college.
And what degree were you doing, like quickly to let everyone know also?
Acha, I was studying sociology.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, right, I didn't know. If I knew, I would have done English literature, but I didn't know.
Yes. But then sociology also, socio, you got really nice profs, you got very, very nice professors.
Yeah. I mean, but don't ask them about me, huh? Because they will.
I'm going to call them.
No, I mean, I think in the end, they sort of came around because they felt that, oh, she's really wants to do all of that. But initially they were like, one of the professors told me कि पहले दाल चावल तो खा लो, उसके बाद dessert खाना. I was like, मुझे पहले dessert खाना है and then दाल चावल.
Isn't this the ये जवानी है दीवानी analogy, but your take on it?
तब तक नहीं आई थी शायद. I'm not
अच्छा
sure.
नहीं, वो तो कुछ टंगड़ी कबाब, हाका नूडल, वो दूसरी
That's about that's about like
adding spice
to your life. No, my college life was really not spicy, to be honest. It was all about my writing journey, and
Okay, still we want to know, what do you often write about? Actually, given that you mentioned this, do you often see yourself as an author writing about preteens, about your childhood, about the current phase you're in, or like college years? What phase of your life do you most often ruminate upon?
I think definitely it's that the LSR phase, because I always feel this, so strongly that in those 3 years of my life, I feel like I've lived 10 years worth of experiences.
Wow.
I think I was constantly in that rut of wanting to write and perform, because everything, was new for me. Like imagine a very anxious, nerdy kid who's never ever walked up on the stage, who's super not social, and suddenly they're doing street theater and they're doing performance poetry and they're writing and they're doing all that stuff, right? So it was, I think I was just on a high or something.
Nice. Very nice. The LSR high. It's
Yes.
the
So I think
hashtag
that,
LSI.
yeah. So I think, that phase really brings up a lot of memories. And I do find myself writing about a lot
Yeah,
of instances, maybe it could be friends, it could be moments of transformation. It could also be gender, because all my learning around gender politics, around the larger, all that, what is wrong with the larger system, I think came through college. So yeah.
interesting. So that feminist awakening was in LSR, was it for you?
Yes. 100%.
So cool. We
100%.
have few people who are watching us live, and I wanted to quickly say a quick hello. And you should also go ahead and just maybe say hi to the chat. A good idea, Avnika, would be that if you've got like a phone on the side or a new tab you can open, you can even see the live chat.
Oh,
Um,
I can.
whatever is coming in. Yeah, you have the link to the video anyways, right? So there's a live chat ka option, and there are a few guys. Like if you guys are watching, please do
I guess
send
I'm a
highs and
little
hellos.
technically challenged, but hi everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't see the chat, but I'm sure you can see me. And
Oh my God. So Ishani Mukherjee has joined, and I want to introduce you to her. She's also one of my really, really good friends from school. And we were very, very soon thinking of having a stream. Can I ask you a quick question? Like school memories say, are there any books that you have really held close to your heart from school days? Because you said, I was also sort of relating to the fact when you said ki not very, very confident growing up, but then college really changed you.
yeah.
So, uh, did any books also were they a part of that journey of yours, or did it all change in college?
So I think while growing up, it was mostly, I think I used to read a lot of Chicken Soup because I
Yeah.
used to find it really easy to read. And then there was like such short, easy stories with a lesson. So,
Right.
I used to read a lot of that. And a bit of, I also got addicted to Nancy Drew for a period of time.
Damn,
Uh,
detective.
yeah, yeah, but I still could not read her very thick ones because I remember, there used to be these smaller editions, and then there used to be
Yeah.
those thicker ones. So I would always pick up the smaller editions. I would never overestimate my, capacity to read. So I think for growing, while growing up, I did not consume. I don't feel as much fiction or as much like whatever, right? Like the whole spectrum. Like there's thrillers, there's poetry. I did not consume as much of it, but yeah, I think with college a lot of it just I think happened very, very sort of organically, like especially with poetry. Like with basically I first got into the performative arts, which was street theater and
Yeah.
performance poetry. And after that I started getting more into the legit, like heavy reading business. So sorry, I don't have too many books to tell you there, but yeah, now I do read a lot.
That's really cool. Like, what's your current read?
My current read is this book, which I was even reading today, which is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine.
I have a feeling I know about this book. It's
So
popular.
I wish I had it right now. Okay, it's in the other room, but it's
No
a
worries.
beautiful, beautiful book. And yeah, it's just very, so it's about this girl who has had, she has like a very lonely, isolated existence. And it goes very deep into her psyche, how she's surviving. She always feels like she is a loner, to be honest. But the way the book is written, I think it's beautiful. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
very cool. मैंने एक discussion point अपने notes से बनाया था, and I wanted to brief you also about it. And
Huh.
I found it very cool to have rhymed it like this. From being an Elsa to being Alexa. So this offbeat track, perhaps. I won't actually even say offbeat because there's so many writers, there's so many people who are in this industry which is booming and it's bustling with creative talent. Somebody had written this in the chat, and I'll very smartly try and frame this question and ask you that like when you have to explain this to your immediate family members, your friends, that what does a 9 to 5 in writing look like? Actually, that is the question that I want to get you to answer. And does 9 to 5 also mean flipping pages all the way up to 11 p.m., 12 a.m.? Like, are there fixed hours when it comes to you writing something? And how much research goes into writing?
I think there are a lot of questions hidden in this.
Four
Yeah,
hidden questions.
exactly. And I'm going to start with the first one. Why? Because, I feel this is something I really want to talk about because,
Yeah.
so the thing is like, by the way, that's very creative. From being an Elsa to being Alaksa, I think that's extremely creative and I really like it. So
Elsa also, by the way, to let everybody know, Elsa,
we forgot.
Yeah, we didn't tell it to the audience. Elsa is like an LSR member, like Stephens wale kya bolte hain apne aap ko, Stephenian?
I think so.
Who cares? Like, who cares about
Stephen? That. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, who cares? I don't care about all that.
Go ahead. Sorry, take it away.
So, the thing is like that, what is the Alaksa thing? So I'll be very honest, when it comes to writing, there are, multiple ways of doing it, and there are many, many commercial ways of doing it. So in my journey, right, when I was doing it digitally, I was writing for all of these magazines, everything, something that people could see, right? Because it was constantly being posted, reposted. And at the same time, they knew that, okay, she's in college, I'm doing a degree. And after that, I wrote, I got a job in a PR and communications firm, which is also something that I again want to hint at, because I was acting on instinct through and through, where I, by the end of 3 years, there was like a whole portfolio of work that I'd managed, like with all the magazines, like with performance poetry. And then, that was something that automatically led to the PR thing as well, which was again something I didn't know, because they were not part of our placement cycle, So what I actually mean to say is, as long as you're doing any form of writing which people are able to decipher and which is commercial in nature, for example, if you're writing for, you're writing for magazines, or you're writing for a very popular content creator, or you're writing in PR and comms, right? Or even you are writing in a big company, like so many corporates have these, need for writers or people in communications. As long as you're doing anything that is commercial and can be explained easily, people would not object. Because even for me, I've always done that with the conventional path as well, right? Like in college, or after that, even with my 2 years of my consulting job. I have, written with that. So I think, people don't object as long as they feel that, okay, you're safe. But I think now I've just stopped explaining, because I don't think there is a way to break it down in a way that is commercial, or that, in a way that they are comfortable consuming it. Because
exactly. And why should they be? Why should somebody be made to feel comfortable about hearing about a job?
Writing is an uncomfortable journey, to be very honest. Exactly. Writing is not comfortable at all. Yeah, I love how you're talking over each other, because that's how much we really
seriously, because I have strong opinions on this. But no, go on.
I should come to so the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because I feel that it took me, I was doing all that, okay, like imagine there were so many things happening in my writing journey, but I still was not able to be like, okay, this is what I want to do, because it's very scary, it's uncomfortable. And especially if you're someone who, also wants to be in print, or you want to write longer form, it's not just, of course, there's poetry, there's free verse, there's articles, there's research backed material, but there is a whole range that is there. You may want to write a thriller tomorrow you may want to write a fantasy, you never know, there's so much range that's there. So I think, so I'm just saying that it's an unconventional choice. And what does a 9 to 5, was that the next question? Or
so my question was, what does a 9 to 5 in writing look like? Are there fixed hours? And how much research goes into it? That's the next question.
Yeah, so I think I feel like some kind of a routine does help, or even if it's not but at the same time, with writing, sometimes it can also be difficult to be like, okay, every day from 4 to 6, I'm going to write.
Yeah.
Because you may not always have the same sort of, energy, because see, writing is also something where you're constantly thinking. And if you don't have that thought in place, nothing will come out on paper, or whatever will come out may be trash. But what I have discovered in the process is that if you want to write more and you want to write good, the way is that you build a routine and you write whatever is coming out, even if it's super bad. And you write like 5 drafts, 6 drafts, 7 drafts, 8 drafts, but you have to make sure that you're getting a certain, number. It doesn't need to be every day 1,500 or 2,000. It can be 300 also, 500 also. But I feel that, that really helps. And same way with reading also, because reading and writing, I think they work, sort of like extremely, like they work in sync, like they just sync each other up and they energize each other up. So you can't let go of either. And I think, see, research, it all depends on what form of writing. Poetry and free verse, I feel, is a lot more instinctive. It's based on observation and your own personal narrative, like things you observe, things coming from, maybe you traveled somewhere, you want to write about that place, or maybe you had an extremely intense relationship you want to write about. Whereas with I feel when you're writing prose, like especially if it's a strong topic, like, if you're writing about, like I was mentioning, I wrote about this temple, the Karni Mata temple in Deshnok in Rajasthan. So that, obviously I need to know certain facts about the place. I need to make sure I'm using the right names, I make sure that I'm not, by, saying anything which does not reflect their history adequately, right? So I think, of course, with long form, there's an element of research, which is very important because it gives you the correct words. And honestly, I mean, the last thing I'm not even going to talk about, like if someone is planning to write a book, then the amount of, I mean, there's nothing to be scared of, I guess, but I can't hide my own fear. But the amount of research, I mean, obviously, it's like you really need to get into it. I think you have to get very down and dirty and know everything. Like imagine if somebody's writing a thriller, right? Like we see so much of that on Netflix, on OTT. They need to really know about police procedure. They really need to know about forensics. They really need to know what kind of tools the device is used. They can't say that, okay, the DNA was caught from, they need to know, okay, that the DNA is found in the hair or in the nails.
Exactly.
All of those small details are very important, because tomorrow you write something, your reader is going to be like, isko ye bhi nahi pata. And it's written an entire story.
You really need to be well equipped. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to help yourself, because writing is a very solitary journey and you can't rely on anyone. So it's literally your research that can be, I feel, like a companion.
Got it. So when you say writing being like a solitary journey, are there also any distractions you face? Like, what's your biggest writing kryptonite?
Yeah, I think I have those only on most days. Like, so yeah, I think distractions are many, because especially like when you are young and you're in your 20s, you always feel like, let me just travel, let me do something more fun. Why am I, because it's like you sometimes feel like, why are you subjecting yourself to as if you're preparing for boards, because you're just in a room and room mein baith ke you're reading, you're writing, so it obviously, I feel it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of, I mean, if someone meditates, that's great. If somebody is at peace with not equating their self-worth to having an outcome. Because I feel that, the writing journey in the true sense cannot begin unless there is a certain sense of detachment from, immediate gratification.
Got it.
So, yeah, so I think there are many distractions. It could be watching a TV, it could be chilling with friends, it could be
just
making a call. Yeah, anything, just everyday activity in itself, like everyday activity, really. Like every time you sit down to read or write, your mind will be like, oh, let me get a glass of water. Or it'll be like, oh, let me take a bath. Or it'll be like, oh, but I need to have a coffee. Or it'll be like, oh, I need to make this phone call. I need to think about some bill. It could be anything. And all
Okay,
that
so on
can
that
wait.
note, sorry, I'm going to cut you off and just
Yeah.
quickly just
Please, like,
throw a question from the chat. Sorry, it's very, very
please
important.
keep
Do you
interrupting me,
think
huh? Because I
no,
think
no,
I'm.
no, 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 just this time because like I
Huh.
felt that this is a very important question and you were leading up to it. So, do you think that a writer's block is something inevitable? Sorry, it was just a follow up.
See, really, now I don't understand this word only because I
Mm-hmm.
feel that क्या होता है ना कि I feel we think of writing as like some fun activity कि we can pick earlier or like you do it sometimes only. It doesn't work like that because when you do that, then there is only a block only. So basically, if you think that okay, sometimes I want to create this article, so I'm going to write 2 days. I'm going to research. I'm going to write. These 2 days are allocated for that. That's
Yeah.
fine. You have written an article, right? Like, I mean, I don't mean to sound so uh, I don't know, judgmental, but the thing is that
Yeah. No.
if you've done that, what you've done is you've just written an article. I feel the act of writing and actually being able to write involves that place where you are like everything else can wait. This is something I need to do. I need to build a routine around it. I need to do it every day. I need to find ideas. It's like a process like any other job. Do you ever tell your boss ki acha aaj this presentation can't be made because I'm having a block? There's no block.
Yeah.
If you know you have to do it, you have to do it. Like literally, there could be blocks. Like if you start on something, maybe you can't figure out, how to go to the next scene. Maybe you can't, you were just figuring out, okay, your character has done this in the previous scene. Now you don't know how they will act. So you need to
Hmm.
figure it out. It's just problem solving. So I think this writer's block
Problem
is just,
solving. That's a nice way of putting it. That writing blocks
yeah.
that if you face is like problem solving. Just up your game, yeah. Up your game. What's a writer's block?
No, I mean, honestly, see, just imagine you need
I
to make
know.
a meal and you don't have, for example, you want to make something with potato, you don't have potato at home. You're not going to just sit there and be like, there's no potato. I'm not going to eat today.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, I just feel like there
Fair.
are ways to get past it. So yeah.
Okay. Very, very interesting way of looking at it. And
Yeah.
one more question that I want to pose from the chat itself was that how does writing help you express compared to any other form of art? Like, I do know that, being in LSR, you've done street, you've done Nukkad Nataks, I'm sure. Street Wing was amazing. Like, I used to look at my seniors and my juniors doing it. I was like, crazy. Like, they used to huddle up, guys. Like, LSR ka Nukkad Natak fam is so, so wonderful. तो
Yeah.
मेरे थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस है स्कूल वगैरह में कॉलेज में भी वांट टू आस्क यू द सेम कि इज राइटिंग मच डिफरेंट like an art as an art form of expression compared to anything else?
Yeah, I think very strongly so.
Okay, how? Next question
See,
would be how?
because writing is a completely different system of
Okay.
expression.
Hmm.
Right? Like when you say something verbally, whether it's poetry, performance poetry, or music, or like you said, nukkad, these are, the system of words is very different. Like
Yeah.
right now, when I'm talking to you, I'm not going to say that, like Tanya's hair was gushing with the wind, and I saw her face reflect a smile that reminded me of my mother when I was 10 years old. I might
Oh,
want to say that, but will I be able to say that to you? I don't think so. So I think
the mother compliment, although I'm sure auntie is like flawlessly
no, I didn't mean that you.
beautiful.
No,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that's what I mean, right? When I'm saying it verbally, it sounds different, but what I meant is like metaphorically. Maybe it's like to radiate so much warmth, so much affection that I drew that parallel. So I think writing is a very, very different medium, and uh, like if you notice, right, like essentially a lot of writers are socially awkward people or are people who somewhere
I've had people
struggle.
say this to me. Yeah.
Yeah, they somewhere do struggle to make sense of all the rational aspects of life, like a
Hmm.
9 to 5 or making money or doing all those things, because there comes a point, I feel, where things just stop making sense to you if it were not for writing. I mean, that at least how it is for me. So, yeah. And I think one small point before I end my answer is it's also a good idea to try different art forms to realize what is the most sustainable for you. Because you know what I realized? I was like, okay, I don't think I am the best actor. And I don't think I can be sustainably good at acting. And I was like, I really, really saw that. And I was like, I mean, I've always known that I can't sing, so I didn't even experiment. But even performance poetry, okay, I love it.
Yeah.
I really do. Because it's essentially, I'm writing and I'm just performing what I've written. So I see it like that. But at the end of the day, if someone were to say, okay, there's no performance poetry in the world now, I would still be fine as long as I can write.
Fair enough. Very, very good point. I also broke into a tiny laugh because I saw this chat in the chat box and I'll read it out to you. Diljit ne likha hai, game karo, up. Writer's block ko karo, hap. It's so cute.
That's
it
nice.
Is so funny. It's like the Elsa se alag sa wala rhyming that. Yeah, very similar. Nice.
That's nice.
अच्छी लगी. In
मुझे
fact,
लग रहा है I should write it somewhere, huh? Because
Right,
मुझे writer's block
oh my
technically
God,
सबसे
it will be
ज़्यादा होता
amazing.
है. I get a lot of writer's block, by the way. हाँ, मतलब I hope people are not thinking कि अच्छा she doesn't have writer's block. That's
लोग
not
तो
true.
ऐसे आपको क्वेश्चंस पूछ रहे हैं. अभी तो और भी बड़े सारे क्वेश्चंस आए हैं कि how do you stop being critical of yourself? Are you critical of your past work?
Very.
Do you take it down? Are you the kind of person who blocks people from stories? Are you petty? Okay, sorry, that's a question.
Am I petty? No, that's a question. Am I petty?
Are you petty?
No, actually, I'm really not.
Okay.
I'm like not petty at all.
That's the
But
writer's
मुझे लग रहा है कि maybe I'm feeling maybe I should be, because many times I don't even realize when someone is petty with me, and then some friend will tell me, and I'm like,
so okay. I am petty to the T. Like I am T for Tanya the T starts by saying Tanya is petty. Like the two T's in petty are the first T in Tanya. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Wow, that really didn't make any sense. But
it makes zero sense. But I will like fight to the point that I make you understand what this analogy was. That's how petty I am. But anyway,
that's that I didn't see that coming. Very smart.
I was like, kuch na kuch aise karenge. I wanted to ask you one question, which I pre-stream also really wanted to get your take on. So I know that this field is not easy. It's not what it looks like. And when you, for the first time, got like a prize or a check or cash in hand, what was the best money you spent as an author or as a writer? What's the best money? What's the best investment?
So I think I'll answer the first one first.
Yeah.
Which is that for the longest time, like, so there was this time, right? Because I was doing all of that. Like I was writing digitally, then I was doing spoken words. So, there was like a good number of like articles, and there was a good number of 70 performances or so by the end of my 3 years. So there was like a good portfolio, right? So then there was this time where people would invite me to, just judge an event or like just be there, right? And I would be like, yeah, sure. Once I remember, I'm not going to name either the college or the person, but once I got invited to this college, and so before that, I had like absolutely no idea that, you're supposed to ask for money also or whatever, because I was so like happy doing all this that I didn't, I just couldn't think of it. Then I remember this time they were like, so there's a Hindi thing, there's an English thing, and there's a Hindi thing in the fest. So I was like, cool. They were like, can you do both? I was like, see, English, so I mean, obviously I can do. That is what they invited me for. But they were like, can you do Hindi also? I was like, so I was like, that perfectionism thing got into my head. I was like, no, I think I should invite someone who's like way better at Hindi, like Hindi poetry. So I, told someone in college only, like she was my senior in LSR, and I told her that, can you come along, and I've seen your work, you perform well and all that. She was like, yeah, sure. And then, she negotiated with them to like pay and all that. It was like her, and I think it was like her first thing ever. And
Okay.
that's when I realized, I was like, oh shit, I didn't know this. And then I mean that's when even I got some money. So which was, you want to know how much?
I think we're going there. Let's drop the figure.
No, so I mean, it was basically just like 3,000 rupees that, for a judging
It's
thing. Like,
amazing, which is
yeah.
amazing.
But then I was like, okay. And then, then my mind went, like, I counted the number of things I've done in the past. I was like, shit, man, this could have been quite something. No, but honestly, money is not, I think, how you should ever.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, I mean, at least in that phase, like I think the 20s wala to just do it, like without
Hmm.
thinking about all of this. Best money I've spent, honestly, I don't know, because the only money I spent is on books. Like the only money that I spent is on books or in taking cab rides and going to book events or literary events or bookstores. So literally
Interesting.
that's like the money that I spend. But the other best money that I've spent is that sometimes I've done some spoiled stuff as well, where I was like, oh, I've done a lot of work. I was like, oh, I'm working this job and I'm writing so much.
Oh
And,
my gosh.
and honestly, it wasn't even like inside. I knew that it was not as much as it could have been. But then I was like, okay, I'll go to Gokarna with a bunch of 35 women. And
Wow.
there's like
Hmm.
this group which is called Women on Wanderlust. And I was like, wow, so cool. And yeah, it was like
Damn.
pretty expensive. But yeah, I was like, it's helping me refill my creative juices.
Yeah, the creative juices. Very important. Very important to keep the research going. You attended Pragati Maidan at a book fair recently. I saw your stories. How was that? What was your book haul like?
So the Pragati Maidan, I mean, it was so great. Because like I think the number of people who came was crazy. And then the other thing
Yeah.
was you could see both their hands like with eight books each. Like
Oh
I
my
saw so
God.
many
Oh my
people.
God.
Like, so many people I could see, like, okay, that Harper bag with like so many
Wow, wow,
books. Or I
wow.
would like, people were, and I don't know how, like, there was just like unbelievable number of readers. And I think it was just crazy, like how many people actually still want to read and write. Because, there's always this question that up to OTT is there, people are not reading or this, that, and all that, like COVID. But I think people are reading, people are really reading. So I think the book fair for me was just a demonstration of the fact that, dude, people are reading. So I think,
Seriously. And people turn up when they come up for such events, so it feels nice. Like I'd done Jaipur Literature Festival, which was really cool.
oh, you went this time in Jan? I
Yeah,
was
I was
there
there.
too.
Oh, we should have met. We should have
We
really
should have met, yeah. But I think
exchanged number
I
stuff.
wasn't writing on Instagram that time. You wouldn't have noticed.
Ah, I see, I see. Acha, a
Ah,
last question that I wanted to ask you for tonight was related to any book recommendations that you would want to give the audience to get into the writing game, to understand the writing process better. Are there any such book recommendations?
yeah, so I actually, like I was saying, it's a very solitary journey. So I really
Yeah,
started reading books on writing to teach myself. So I really have them right now. I'm going to show it to you guys as well. So I think
perfect.
this is a book that I'm assuming many people would have heard about,
Oh,
which is
please.
part autobiographical in nature and part about writing. So I think On Writing is a very good, easy read by Stephen King that I feel people should really read. Like that was the first one that I read, like when I wanted to. But then there's, okay, because I think before the chat, we were, just even talking about grammar and in general,
Yeah,
right? Like grammar. So I think this is a book where if On Writing Well by William Zinsser. So I feel like, this is a book that can really help you self-edit. I feel that even if you've written a book and before you take it to an editor, you should really read this book and try to self-edit, because it gives you some very, very practical advice on punctuation, grammar. There are so many rules we don't know. So many rules like small things, like there are very small things like dialogue. How do you punctuate after, after a closing exclamation mark and a closing inverted comma, and then you want to continue the sentence. There's a lot of small things, and I think this book is just great. Other than that, really, there is like, okay, I have to talk about these two books because I feel they are So, okay, so there is this book called Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. Okay. Now, this is a very experiential book. It just exposes you to the nature of writing and the writing life, because that is something that is not very well understood in terms of what it is as a life, the craft, and how, like, it's just very like it just takes you through a journey of its own. Right. So I think this is again great. And yeah, like these books really I swear by. I really hope that people read them because they've helped me so much. I can't describe, like, so much. And this is also a very beautiful book, which is called Bird by Bird
Wow.
by Anne
The
Lamott.
cover looks nice.
Yeah, it's just great. And literally, Bird by Bird. So it even gave me the inspiration for my own purpose statement as a writer, which was the fact that like when I think about writing, it seems very overwhelming. So I've given myself this thing, which my purpose statement now is building one word at a time. So the thing I think about in my head is that the only thing I need to do is write one word, like
Hmm.
at a time, right? Like at a moment in time. Like if you just see, like if right now I were to scribble something, I would only be writing one word in that moment in time. So yeah, so I mean that's why it's like even coming back to the first question, I don't think the writer term or the journalist poet term makes that much of a sense as, like, I think this purpose statement which I have, which is building one word at a time, and then I back it up
Oh,
with I tell stories and make my own sunlight. So
really nice. Oh my God.
yeah, so I
Yes.
think that process has happened because of these books, and this is the last but the best book I feel that anybody who wants to be creative or artistic in any sense, like whether it's the visual arts, poetry, whatever, I think should read this book, which is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It really will help you, I think, with everything, like from writer's block to building a routine. It's not like an instruction manual, by the way, huh? Please don't think it's like that, because I don't like those kind of books. But
No,
it's
no. In fact, somebody's written also. Okay, they started reading. Yash wrote this. He started reading.
this one.
There is a book, Making of a Story, which is great for fiction writers. He is recommended, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Even I need a lot of recommendation.
Okay, after this, I'll send you a transcript of the live chat. Okay, so you go through
Yes,
all
yes, please.
the suggestions that are coming your way. So we'll end it on a note where I want to ask you, if we want to become Avnika Gupta, the writer, what are the qualities that we should imbibe?
I feel this question is like so wrong. I mean, I just
Oh my God.
no, no,
Oh my
no.
God.
I don't know. I mean, wrong is like, I see, honestly, I feel I really don't know how to answer it, because I don't think anybody needs to be me at all. Because, I mean, especially with writing, because I feel it's such an individualistic journey. And I
Got it.
think it's such a unique journey. But in terms of qualities, I think definitely a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. And I think a lot of
Yes.
persistence and a lot of don't listen to people attitude, like very
See,
important.
it started with you saying, no, no, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm very humble. And then you have
See,
given it 2, 3 points. Let's
quality,
not
because
try.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because qualities I would always talk about, because I feel writing, like if you really want to do it, requires these things. But like the being me things like made me really uncomfortable. So
Nahi, fair enough. Everybody's got their own journey. Everybody's their own person. You don't have to ape anyone. You don't have to
yeah.
start being the other person.
But I
Um,
think, yeah, but like writing, yeah, like there is so much knowledge in the world, honestly. Like,
yeah,
these books and so much, which can really help, I think, help anyone like write better.
lovely. There's such a good set of recommendations. In fact, I've made a note of them too. So at the same time, I'm like typing also. So I'll also
Yeah. So we'll see a
maybe
lot of
all this
your
stuff.
work now.
Hopefully, someday, one day, very soon. But when are we coming on your podcast? You tell us this. A very, very cool thing for the audience to check out. Please, Avnika also does podcasting, which is super cool. And she's bloody good. Like, she has got her own Instagram page, which I have completely devoured. So you must go and check it out as well. And yes, I look forward to something in the future. We should do some collaboration. You guys should send us ideas on what we should do together.
Yes, please. I think
Please.
ideas are always welcome. And thank you so much, Tanya, for doing this so beautifully. I really enjoyed the questions. And thank you so much to everyone for listening. And I'm excited to read the chat that Tanya will send me. So yeah, thank you for joining in. And I really hope that this was, I don't know, useful, fun, or added value in some way to your, writing journey. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Avnika. Really, really appreciate your time. Thanks, chat. We'll see you next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. And very, very excited. Hopefully, Avnika, I get to meet you in person and we go out for coffee.
Let's do that.
Okay. Good night. Good night. Good night. Love you.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take